Years ago, long before cities, kingdoms, or written language existed, the world was ruled by nature alone. Endless forests stretched across the land, broken only by rocky mountains, dark caves, and cold rivers flowing through valleys untouched by human hands. The nights were terrifying, filled with the cries of giant predators echoing through the darkness. In this brutal world lived a small tribe of prehistoric humans who survived not through comfort or technology, but through fear, instinct, and cooperation. Among them was a sleepless caveman named Caro, a tall and heavily built hunter whose face carried scars from countless struggles against wild beasts and rival tribes. His thick dark hair hung over tired eyes that rarely closed for long. Sleep had become dangerous in this ancient world, because danger never rested. Every night, Caro sat near the entrance of the cave, gripping a sharpened wooden spear, while flames from the tribe's fire danced. Across the stone walls behind him, beside the fire, slept his mate Nira, wrapped tightly in animal hides while holding their newborn child against her chest. The child was weak and small, born during the freezing season when food was scarce and predators became more aggressive. Caro understood that one careless moment could mean death for the entire family. The tribe had already lost several children during previous winters to starvation, disease, or attacks from hungry animals. Memories of those tragedies haunted him every night. Beyond the cave entrance, the cold wind carried the smell of wet earth and distant rain. Occasionally, glowing eyes appeared in the darkness outside as wolves and saber-toothed cats circled the camp searching for weakness. Caro listened carefully to every sound, because survival depended on awareness. During the daytime, life was no easier. The tribe wandered through forests searching for berries, roots, eggs, and small animals while avoiding deadly predators larger and faster than themselves. Massive mammoths moved across the plains like living mountains, while giant bears dominated caves and riverbanks. Even a simple injury could become fatal, because there was no medicine and no safety. Hunger was constant. Some days, the hunters returned with meat, but many days they returned empty-handed after risking their lives for nothing. The tribe's survival depended on every member doing their part. Children gathered sticks for fires, women searched for edible plants, and hunters traveled dangerous distances to track prey. Caro carried enormous pressure on his shoulders because he was one of the strongest hunters among them. If he failed, many would starve. Yet despite exhaustion, fear, and endless hardship, he refused to surrender to despair. Deep inside him burned a fierce determination to protect his family at all costs. Each night, while others slept, beside the warmth of the fire, Caro remained awake, staring into the darkness beyond the cave entrance, understanding that in prehistoric life, survival belonged only to those willing to fight for another sunrise. As winter deepened across the prehistoric wilderness, the tribe's situation became even more desperate. Heavy snow covered the ground, hiding roots and plants beneath frozen earth, while icy winds swept to the mountains like invisible blades cutting through animal hides and human skin alike. Food disappeared quickly, forcing hunters to travel farther from the safety of the cave in search of prey. Caro rarely slept now because every passing day brought new dangers to his people. Hunger weakened the tribe, and weak humans attracted predators. One freezing morning, before sunrise, Caro joined 3 other hunters and left the cave carrying stone-tipped spears and rough wooden clubs. Thick fog covered the forest floor as they moved silently between ancient trees taller than anything modern humans could imagine. Their breath rose into the air while distant animal calls echoed across the valley. The hunters searched for tracks in the snow, hoping to find deer or wild boar before starvation claimed another member of the tribe. Hours passed, with no success. Then suddenly, one hunter discovered enormous footprints pressed deep into the frozen mud beside a riverbank. At first, hope filled the group, because large tracks meant large prey and enough meat to feed everyone for days. But Caro quickly realized the tracks belonged not to prey, but to a giant cave bear. The beast was enormous, far larger than any human, capable of crushing bones with a single bite. Fresh blood stains nearby revealed it had recently killed another animal and was likely still close. Fear spread among the hunters, Yet turning back meant returning empty-handed to starving families. Carol made the difficult decision to continue tracking the creature, hoping to steal part of its kill after it moved away. Slowly and carefully, they followed the tracks deeper into the forest until they discovered the remains of a half-eaten elk lying beneath a rocky cliff. Steam still rose from the carcass in the cold air. Suddenly, a deep growl shook the ground behind them. The giant bear emerged from the fog like a monster from nightmares. Its thick fur covered in snow and blood. Panic erupted. Instantly, one hunter fled while another froze in terror. Carol reacted immediately, shouting for the others to climb the rocks while he distracted the beast. The massive predator charged forward with terrifying speed. Carol thrust a spear toward the animal's face, barely avoiding its claws as the force knocked him into the snow. Pain exploded through his shoulder, but he stood again because stopping meant death. The other hunters threw stones and shouted from above, confusing the beast long enough for Carol to escape toward the cliff. Together they forced the bear away with fire from burning branches before quickly cutting meat from the dead elk and retreating toward the cave. By the time they returned home, darkness had fallen across the valley once more. The tribe celebrated the arrival of food, but Carol remained silent beside the fire, exhausted and wounded, as others ate and slept peacefully for the first time in days. He sat awake once, again near the cave entrance, staring into the endless darkness and realizing that prehistoric survival demanded courage every single day of life. Paragraph 3. Days passed after the encounter with the cave bear, but peace never lasted long in the ancient world. The tribe remained constantly alert because danger came not only from predators, but also from nature itself. Violent storms crashed across the mountains without warning, flooding rivers and destroying shelters built from branches and animal skins. One evening, dark clouds swallowed the sky while thunder echoed through the valley like the roar of angry spirits. Strong winds tore through the forest, bending trees and carrying freezing rain across the land. Carol quickly helped the tribe gather inside the cave, while hunters dragged firewood away from the storm. The entrance was covered with heavy hides to block the wind. Yet fear spread among everyone because storms often force predators closer to human shelters. Inside the cave, children cried while elders whispered stories about evil spirits hidden within thunder and darkness. Carol did not believe in spirits, but he understood something even more terrifying. Nature itself was merciless. As rain poured outside, the fire began dying. Without fire, the tribe would freeze during the night. Carol and another hunter risked leaving the cave to collect dry wood hidden beneath rocky ledges nearby. The storm was brutal. Rain struck their skin like stones while mud covered the ground beneath their feet. Lightning flashed across the sky, briefly revealing massive trees swaying violently in the darkness. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest as one enormous tree collapsed nearby, narrowly missing them. Fear surged through Carol's body, but he continued searching because survival depended on that fire. After finding enough dry branches, they rushed back toward the cave only to discover fresh wolf tracks surrounding the entrance. The starving predators had followed the scent of humans and meat through the storm. Red eyes glowed in the darkness beyond the firelight as low growls echoed from every direction. Panic spread inside the cave. Several children screamed while hunters prepared weapons made from sharpened stone and wood. Carol understood that wolves hunted the weak, and the storm had made the tribe appear vulnerable. The predators slowly approached the entrance, testing human defenses. Then the attack began. Wolves lunged through the rain toward the cave opening while hunters shouted and thrust burning sticks toward them. One wolf managed to enter before Carol slammed his spear into its side during a desperate struggle beside the fire. The animal snapped its jaws wildly before collapsing onto the cave floor. Outside, the rest of the pack circled aggressively, waiting for another opportunity. For hours, the tribe defended the entrance while thunder continued crashing overhead. Finally, near sunrise, the wolves retreated back into the forest. Exhausted and soaked from rain, Carol collapsed beside the fire while others slowly returned to sleep. But he remained unable to rest completely. His mind stayed trapped between fear and responsibility. Looking at his sleeping child beside the firelight, he understood that prehistoric life was a never-ending battle against starvation, weather, predators, and exhaustion. There were no safe nights, no certainty about tomorrow, and no guarantee anyone would survive another season. Yet despite these harsh realities, the tribe continued, fighting because survival itself had become humanity's greatest instinct. When spring finally arrived after the brutal winter, the frozen wilderness slowly returned to life. Snow melted into rushing rivers, green plants pushed through the earth, and herds of animals migrated across the plains once more. For the tribe, the season brought hope as food became easier to find and warmer, weather reduced the constant threat of freezing to death. Yet even during better seasons, danger remained. Everywhere, one morning, scouts returned to cave with terrible news. Another tribe had entered the valley. Human rivals were often more dangerous than predators because they hunted not only for food, but also for territory, fire, weapons, and survival itself. Caro immediately prepared for conflict. He knew resources in the valley were limited, and desperate people would fight fiercely to protect them. Throughout the day, hunters sharpened spears while women and children gathered stones inside the cave for defense. Fear spread silently among the tribe because everyone remembered stories of violent raids where entire families disappeared forever. As darkness approached, smoke from another campfire appeared across the valley near the river. Caro volunteered to secretly observe the strangers before any attack could happen. Moving carefully through the forest under moonlight, he eventually spotted the rival tribe beside their fires. They looked exhausted, thin, and hungry after traveling long distances. Among them were injured hunters, crying children, and elderly people struggling to survive. For a moment, Caro realized these strangers were no different from his own tribe. They carried the same fear, exhaustion, and desperation visible in every prehistoric human life. Yet sympathy alone could not erase danger. The following day, tensions increased when both tribes arrived at the same riverbank searching for fish. Hunters from each side stood silently gripping weapons, while children hid behind adults in fear. One small mistake could begin a deadly battle. Suddenly, chaos erupted when a giant wild boar burst from nearby bushes, charging directly toward the groups. The massive animal injured one hunter from the rival tribe before turning toward the children near the water. Without hesitation, Caro rushed forward with his spear, while several rival hunters joined him beside the river. Silence followed. Both tribes stood staring at one another, breathing heavily while realizing something important. Survival was difficult. Enough without destroying each other. Slowly, weapons lowered. Instead of fighting, the tribes shared meat from the boar and exchanged cautious gestures beside the riverbank. Though language remained primitive, cooperation became possible through necessity. Over the following days, both groups traded knowledge about hunting grounds, dangerous predators, and seasonal changes. Caro remained cautious, but he understood that unity increased survival chances in a world ruled by hardship. That night, sitting beside the fire outside the cave, he watched children from both tribes playing together beneath the stars. For the first, the night refused to end. The sky stretched endlessly above the dark ocean, filled with cold stars that offered no warmth to the trembling bodies drifting below. Caro had not slept for 2 nights, his eyes burning, his muscles stiff, yet his mind refused to rest. He sat at the edge of the crude raft, gripping a sharpened wooden spear, staring into the black water, as if something might rise from it at any moment. The raft itself was nothing more than a fragile collection of logs tied together with twisted vines and animal sinew, creaking with every movement of the waves. Around him, his small group, his family, his tribe, lay curled together, exhausted from hunger and fear. The sea was something they had never known before. Back on land, there had been forests, animals to hunt, caves to hide in, but the land had changed. The cold had grown harsher, food had become scarce, and strange forces had pushed them toward the endless water. At first, they feared it, then they followed it. Now it was all around them. Caro's mate clutched their child tightly, her eyes half open even in sleep, as if her instincts refused to let her. fully rest. The child's breathing was soft, fragile, a small rhythm of life in a world that felt determined to erase it. The wind blew cold across her skin, carrying the scent of salt and something unfamiliar. Carol listened to every sound, the splash of distant waves, the crackle beneath his feet, the quiet shifting of bodies behind him. He could not afford to sleep. Not now. Not when danger could come from below or from the sky. His thoughts drifted back to the land they had left behind. The last hunt that yielded nothing. The hunger in the tribe's eyes. The silent understanding that staying meant death. The decision to build the raft had been desperate, but it was the only choice. And now, drifting into the unknown, Carol realized that survival was no longer about strength or skill alone. It was about endurance. It was about staying awake when every part of your body begged for rest. It was about believing that somewhere beyond the endless horizon, there was land again. He tightened his grip on the spear and kept watching the dark water, refusing to let sleep take him, because he knew that if he did, it might be the last thing he ever did. The sun rose slowly, painting the horizon with faint shades of orange and red, but its warmth felt distant and weak against the biting cold of the sea. Carol blinked hard, forcing his eyes to stay open as the light revealed the true state of their journey. The raft had drifted farther than he had imagined. There was no land in sight, only an endless stretch of water in every direction. The others began to stir, their movements slow and heavy with exhaustion. Hunger had become a constant companion, gnawing at their insides, making every movement feel like a struggle. One of the older members of the group tried to stand but collapsed almost immediately, his body too weak to support him. Carol watched silently, his jaw tightening. There was no room for weakness here, yet he knew it was not a choice. They were all breaking piece by piece. The sea offered no easy food. Occasionally, small fish swam near the surface, but catching them required speed and precision, two things that were fading with each passing hour. Carol had managed to spear one today before, and the tribe had shared in silence, each bite small, each chew slow, as if trying to make it last forever. Now, there was nothing left. The child began to cry softly, a weak sound that cut to the quiet, like a sharp blade. Carol's mate rocked gently, trying to soothe it, but her own strength was fading. Carol turned his gaze back to the water, scanning for movement. His instincts told him that life existed here, beneath the surface, hidden from sight. He needed to find it. He needed to prove that the sea was not just a place of death. As the sun climbed higher, the heat began to press down on them, drying their lips, burning. Their skin, thirst joined hunger, creating a deeper desperation. Carol dipped his hand into the water, but quickly pulled it back, knowing it would not help. The salt only made things worse. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, but the darkness behind his eyelids felt dangerous, pulling him towards sleep. He snapped them open again, breathing heavily. He could not rest. Not yet. Not when the tribe depended on him. He stood slowly, balancing carefully on the shifting logs, and raised the spear once more. His body screamed for rest, but his mind pushed forward. Survival demanded action, not surrender. Somewhere beneath the waves, there had to be life. And if there was life, there was hope. By midday, the sea had changed. The calm surface of the morning gave way to restless waves, rising and falling with unpredictable force. The raft groaned under the pressure, its binding stretching, its logs shifting dangerously with each swell. Carol widened his stance, adjusting his balance as the water splashed against his legs. The others clung tightly to whatever they could, their eyes filled with fear. The child cried louder now, sensing the danger, its small voice trembling against the roar of the ocean. Carol's heart pounded as he scanned the horizon, but there was nothing, no land, no birds, no signs of safety, only water and sky. A sudden movement beneath the raft caught his attention. A shadow passed below them, large and fast. Carol froze for a moment, his grip tightening on the spear. Another shadow followed, circling. The sea was not empty. It was watching them. The realization sent a chill through his body. sharper than the cold wind. The raft shifted violently as something brushed against it from below. One of the tribe members let out a frightened cry, clutching the logs as if they might disappear beneath him. Caro crouched low, his eyes locked on the water, waiting for the next movement. His instinct screamed danger. This was not prey. This was something else, something powerful. The shadows moved again, closer this time, their presence undeniable. Caro raised a spear, ready to strike if necessary, though he knew it might not be enough. The raft was their only protection, fragile as it was. Another impact shook the logs, stronger than before, and for a moment, Caro thought they would break apart. The tribe huddled together, their fear turning into silent desperation. Caro's mind raced. Fighting might not be the answer. He needed to protect the raft, to keep it intact at all costs. He grabbed a loose piece of wood and slammed it against the surface of the water, creating loud splashes, trying to scare whatever lurked below. The noise echoed across the waves, sharp and sudden. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the shadows began to retreat, fading into the deeper darkness beneath the surface. Caro exhaled deeply, his body trembling from the tension. The danger had passed, for now, but the message was clear. The sea was alive, and it was not a place meant for them. Yet they had no choice but to continue. Caro lowered himself back onto the raft, his muscles aching, his mind heavy. He looked at the others, at their tired faces and frightened eyes, and realized that survival here would require more than strength. It would require courage, even when fear threatened to consume them completely. As evening approached, the sky darkened once more, and the temperature dropped sharply. The wind grew stronger, cutting through their worn animal skins as if they offered no protection at all. Caro's exhaustion deepened, his vision blurring at the edges, but he forced himself to remain alert. The tribe had grown quieter. Now, their energy nearly gone, their movements slow and weak. Even a child had stopped crying, its silence more frightening than any sound. Caro's mate held it close, her face pale, her eyes hollow with worry. The sea, once again, seemed endless and unforgiving. But then, something changed. A faint sound reached Caro's ears, a distant call carried by the wind. He turned his head, listening carefully. There was again a bird. His heart skipped a beat. Birds meant land. He stood up quickly, ignoring the pain in his legs, and scanned the darkening sky. At first, he saw nothing. Then, a small shape moved against the fading light, gliding briefly before disappearing. Hope surged through him, sudden and powerful. He pointed toward the direction of the sound, trying to communicate what he had seen. The others looked up, their eyes searching, their expressions shifting from despair to cautious hope. If there were birds, there had to be land nearby. The realization spread through the group like a quiet fire, warming them from within despite the cold wind. Caro's mind sharpened, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. He adjusted the position of the raft as best as he could, using a long branch to push against the water, guiding them in the direction of the bird's flight. It was slow, difficult work, but it was something more than drifting aimlessly. The tribe began to help, their movements weak but determined. For the first time since leaving land, they had a direction. The sky grew darker and the stars began to appear once more, but now they felt different. They were no longer just distant lights in an empty sky. They were witnesses to a journey, silent observers of fragile hope struggling to survive. Caro remained at the front of the raft, his eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for any sign, any proof that they were not alone in this vast, unforgiving world. Sleep still called to him, heavy and relentless, but he pushed it away. Not yet, not when they were so close. The night stretched on, but it no longer felt endless. Caro's eyes burned with exhaustion, his body barely able to remain upright. Yet something inside him refused to give in. The memory of the bird, the possibility of land, kept him moving forward. The raft drifted, steadily, guided by small efforts and fragile hope. Hours passed, each one blending into the next, until finally, as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Carol saw. At first, it was just a shadow, a darker shape against the pale glow of the rising sun. He blinked, unsure if his tired mind was playing tricks on him. But then, it became clearer. A line, a solid line, land. His breath caught in his throat as he stared. Unable to look away, he turned to the others, pointing, his voice hoarse but filled with urgency. They followed his gaze, and one by one, their expressions changed. Hope turned into disbelief, then into something stronger, relief. The raft moved closer slowly, painfully slowly, but the land remained growing clearer with each passing moment. Shapes emerged, rocks, trees, the promise of shelter. Carol felt his strength fading, but he held on, driven by the sight ahead. When the raft finally touched the shallow waters near the shore, the tribe did not hesitate. They moved forward, stumbling into the water, their legs weak but determined. Carol was the last to step off, his body shaking as his feet touched solid ground for the first time in days. The sensation was overwhelming. He fell to his knees, pressing his hands into sand, feeling its firmness, its reality. They had made it. Against all odds, they had survived. The sea behind them still roared, indifferent to their struggle, but it no longer held them captive. Carol looked at his tribe, at the child, now breathing softly, at his mate, her eyes filled with tears at the others, exhausted but alive. This new land was unknown, filled with its own dangers, but it was also filled with possibility. Carol lay back on the sand, his eyes finally closing as sleep claimed him at last. For the first time in many nights, he allowed himself to rest, not in fear, but in the quiet understanding that survival, once again, had been earned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Long before the invention of insulated jackets, thermal wear, and modern heating systems, early humans faced winters that could freeze rivers solid and bury entire landscapes beneath thick blankets of snow. These harsh conditions tested not only their physical endurance, but also their intelligence and adaptability. Survival in such freezing environments was not a matter of comfort. It was a daily battle against frostbite, starvation, and death. Early humans relied heavily on their ability to observe nature and learn from it. They noticed how animals adapted to winter. Some grew thicker fur, others hibernated, and many migrated. While humans could not hibernate or grow fur thick enough to survive extreme cold, they developed their own strategies. One of the earliest and most critical innovations was the use of fire. Fire provided warmth, protection from predators, and a way to cook food, which made it easier to digest and provided more energy. Communities would gather around fires, using them not only as a heat source, but also as a center for social bonding, storytelling, and planning. Firewood became one of the most valuable resources during winter, and people would spend warmer months collecting and storing it. In addition to fire, early humans began to seek shelter that could protect them from icy winds. Natural caves were among the first choices, offering insulation and protection. Over time, humans improved upon these shelters, building huts from wood, animal bones, and earth, sealing gaps with mud, moss, and leaves to trap heat inside. Survival also depended on cooperation. Individuals could not endure the cold alone. Groups worked together to hunt, gather food, and maintain fires, ensuring that everyone contributed to the survival of the community. This sense of unity became a cornerstone of human resilience. Even without what we now call warm clothing, early humans used animal hides and furs in simple but effective ways, wrapping them around their bodies to reduce heat loss. These early coverings were not refined garments, but they were life-saving tools. Through observation, experimentation, and cooperation, humans began to carve out a way to survive in a world that seemed determined to freeze them out. As winters grew harsher and human populations expanded into colder regions, survival techniques became more advanced and deliberate. Early humans learned that staying dry was just as important as staying warm. Wet skin and freezing temperatures could quickly lead to hypothermia, so they began to develop methods to keep moisture away from their bodies. Animal hides were treated and dried, making them more effective at repelling water and retaining heat. While these were not tailored clothes in a modern sense, they represented a major step forward in human innovation. People also began layering materials, using multiple skins or plant fibers to trap air between layers, which acted as insulation. This understanding of layering was a crucial development in surviving freezing climates. Food also played a vital role in enduring winter. The human body requires more energy to stay warm, so early humans adapted by consuming high-calorie diets, rich in fats and proteins. Hunting became a coordinated effort, with groups working together to bring down large animals like mammoths, deer, or bison. These animals not only provided food, but also bone for tools and hides for insulation. Preservation techniques became essential. Meat was dried, smoked, or frozen naturally in the cold environment to ensure a steady food supply when hunting was difficult. In addition, early humans learned to store food in underground pits, which acted as natural refrigerators. Another key adaptation was mobility. Some groups chose to migrate seasonally, moving to warmer areas during the coldest months. Others remained in place but adapted their daily routines, limiting exposure to the cold by staying in shelters during storms and venturing out only when necessary. Social structures became more organized, with roles assigned to individuals based on strength, skill, or experience. Elders shared knowledge, hunters provided food, and others maintained shelters and fires. This division of labor increased efficiency and improved the chances of survival. Even children were taught essential skills from a young age, ensuring that knowledge was passed down through generations. These evolving strategies demonstrate that survival was not based on a single solution, but rather a combination of innovations and behaviors that work together to keep early humans alive in freezing conditions. Shelter design became increasingly sophisticated as humans spent generations adapting to cold environments. Early structures evolved from simple windbreaks into carefully constructed dwellings designed to conserve heat and withstand severe weather. In regions where trees were scarce, such as icy plains, humans used bones from large animals like mammoths as frameworks for their shelters, covering them with hides and insulating them with snow and earth. Snow itself, despite being cold, acted as an excellent insulator when packed tightly, preventing heat from escaping. This principle would later be seen in structures like snow huts, where the interior could remain significantly warmer than the outside air. Inside these shelters, people created designated areas for sleeping, cooking, and storing food, maximizing efficiency and comfort. Bedding was made from layers of fur and grass, elevating sleepers from the cold ground and reducing heat loss. The arrangement of the shelter also mattered. Entrances were often made small or angled to block wind, and fires were placed strategically to provide warmth without filling the space with smoke. Ventilation became an important consideration, as too much smoke could be deadly. Over time, humans learned to balance warmth and airflow, creating safer living conditions. Another critical aspect of winter survival was the development of tools. Stone tools were refined to be sharper and more durable, aiding in hunting and processing animal hides. Needles made from bone allowed for the stitching of hides, leading to more fitted and effective coverings, even if they were still primitive by modern standards. These sewn garments provided better insulation than simple draping. Foot protection also improved, with early versions of boots made from fur and leather, helping to prevent frostbite. Beyond physical adaptations, mental resilience played a significant role in survival. Long, dark winters could be psychologically challenging, so humans relied on storytelling, rituals, and social interaction to maintain morale. These cultural practices strengthened group bonds and provided a sense of purpose and hope. In many ways, surviving winter was not just about enduring the cold, but also about maintaining the will to continue. Through innovation in shelter, tools, and social practices, early humans transformed their environments into livable spaces, proving that intelligence and creativity could overcome even the harshest natural conditions. Another crucial factor in surviving freezing winters was a deep understanding early humans developed of their environment. They became skilled observers of seasonal patterns, animal behavior, and weather changes. This knowledge allowed them to prepare in advance for the harshest months. For example, they learned when animals migrated or stored fat, making certain times of the year better for hunting. They also recognized signs of approaching storms, such as changes in wind patterns or cloud formations, giving them time to seek shelter and secure resources. This awareness reduced risks and improved survival rates. Water management was equally important. In freezing conditions, liquid water could be scarce, so humans relied on melting snow or ice using fire. This process required fuel, making firewood even more valuable. They also learned to avoid eating snow directly, as it could lower body temperature and accelerate hypothermia. Instead, they melted it first, ensuring it was safe to drink. Another innovative strategy was the use of communal living spaces. By staying close together, humans could share body heat, making it easier to stay warm during extremely cold nights. This practice also strengthened social bonds and created a sense of security. Cooperation extended to all aspects of life, from hunting to childcare. Injured or weaker members of the group were cared for rather than abandoned, as every individual contributed in some way to the community's survival. This collective mindset was a defining feature of human evolution. Early humans also developed methods to navigate snow-covered landscapes. They created simple tools like sleds to transport goods and used animal tracks to find paths through difficult terrain. In some regions, they even developed early forms of snowshoes, distributing their weight to prevent sinking into deep snow. These innovations made travel more efficient and less exhausting. Fire continued to play a central role, not only for warmth, but also for cooking and crafting tools. Maintaining a fire required constant attention, and groups often took turns to ensure it never went out. Losing fire in freezing conditions could be catastrophic, so it was treated with great care. Over time, humans became so skilled at managing their environment that they could thrive in regions once thought uninhabitable. Their ability to learn, adapt, and innovate turned winter from a deadly obstacle into a challenge that could be managed and overcome. Ultimately, the survival of humans in freezing winters before the advent of modern warm clothing is a testament to the power of adaptability, intelligence, and community. Rather than relying on a single solution, early humans combined multiple strategies to endure the cold. They used fire as a constant source of warmth and security, built shelters that trapped heat and blocked wind, and developed tools that made hunting and clothing more efficient. They learned to preserve food, manage water, and read the environment, ensuring they were always prepared for what lay ahead. Perhaps most importantly, they relied on each other. Cooperation allowed them to share resources, divide responsibilities, and support those in need. This sense of unity gave them a significant advantage over other species that relied solely on instinct. Even without advanced technology, humans demonstrated remarkable creativity in solving problems. Simple materials like animal hides, bones, and plants were transformed into life-saving resources through ingenuity and effort. Over generations, these practices evolved and improved, laying the foundation for future innovations in clothing and shelter. The challenges of winter also shaped human culture, fostering storytelling traditions and social structures that strengthened communities. These cultural elements were not just forms of entertainment. They were tools for survival, helping people cope with the psychological strain of long, cold seasons. Looking back, it is clear that surviving freezing winters was not about defeating nature, but learning to live in harmony with it. Early, humans respected the power of the environment and adapted accordingly, using knowledge and cooperation to overcome adversity. Their legacy can still be seen today in the way we approach challenges, innovate solutions, and support one another in difficult times. The story of how humans survive without warm clothing is not just about the past. It is a powerful reminder of what can be achieved through resilience, creativity, and the strength of community. For most of human history, being left-handed was seen as strange, even unnatural. But hidden beneath centuries of misunderstanding lies a fascinating possibility. What if left-handedness is actually a subtle evolutionary advantage, a quiet superpower that has survived against all odds? Imagine early humans living in dangerous, unpredictable environments where survival depended on quick thinking, adaptability, and the ability to surprise both prey and predators. In a world where the majority favored their right hand, a left-handed individual moved differently, fought differently, and reacted in ways others couldn't easily predict. This difference, small as it seemed, may have given them a critical edge. When facing an opponent, their strikes came from unexpected angles. When crafting tools or weapons, their perspective allowed them to approach problems uniquely. Over time, while right-handed individuals dominated in number, left-handers persisted, not disappearing, not fading away, but maintaining a steady presence in every generation. This persistence alone raises a powerful question. If left-handedness offered no advantage, why didn't it vanish completely? Evolution tends to eliminate traits that don't serve a purpose, yet left-handedness remains, quietly woven into the human story. Scientists today suggest that this rarity may be exactly what gives left-handers their strength. Being different forces the brain to adapt, to build alternative neural pathways, to process information in ways that are less common but often more creative. In modern terms, this could explain why left-handed individuals are frequently associated with artistic talent, innovative thinking, and the ability to approach problems from unconventional angles. But this isn't just about creativity. It's about survival, strategy, and perception. From ancient battlefields to modern-day sports arenas, left-handed individuals continue to surprise, disrupt, and outperform expectations in specific situations. What once may have been seen as a flaw could actually be a refined, evolutionary trait, one that has quietly endured for thousands of years, waiting to be recognized not as a weakness, but as a unique and powerful adaptation. As human societies evolved, the mysterious advantage of left-handed individuals didn't disappear. It simply transformed. In early civilizations, left-handedness was often discouraged, sometimes even punished, as cultures pushed for uniformity and conformity. Children were trained to write with their right hands. Tools were designed primarily for right-handed use, and social norms reinforced the idea that being left-handed was something to correct. Yet despite these pressures, left-handed individuals continued to exist in consistent numbers, resisting erasure in a way that seems almost biologically determined. This resilience hints at something deeper than coincidence. Beneath the surface, the brains of left-handed people often develop with a slightly different structure, particularly in how the two hemispheres communicate with each other. This enhanced cross-communication can lead to quicker problem-solving in certain contexts, stronger spatial awareness, and a greater ability to think divergently. In high-stakes situations, where quick decisions and unconventional thinking can mean the difference between success and failure, these traits become incredibly valuable. Consider moments in history where unexpected strategies changed the course of events. Tactics that broke patterns that caught opponents off guard. It's not difficult to imagine that individuals who naturally think outside the norm played a role in shaping those outcomes. Even today, in fields like design, engineering, and the arts, left-handed individuals often bring fresh perspectives that challenge traditional approaches. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect is how this difference persists even when society tries to suppress it. Unlike many learned behaviors, handedness is deeply rooted in biology, suggesting that whatever advantage it once provided and may still provide is significant enough to withstand generations of cultural pressure. This quiet defiance of uniformity reinforces the idea that left-handedness is not an accident, but a carefully preserved variation within the human species, one that continues to influence how individuals perceive and interact with the world around them. In the modern world, the subtle superpower of left-handedness becomes most visible in environments where unpredictability is an advantage. Nowhere is this more apparent than in competitive sports, where milliseconds and angles can determine victory or defeat. Athletes who are left-handed often hold a natural edge because their movements are less familiar to the majority of their opponents. Whether the boxer delivering an unexpected punch, a tennis player serving from an unusual angle, or a cricketer bowling with a rhythm that disrupts timing, left-handed competitors consistently challenge the expectations of right. Left-handed norms. This isn't just coincidence. It's a reflection of how deeply ingrained patterns shape human reactions. Most people train, practice, and adapt against right-handed opponents, making left-handed individuals inherently harder to predict. This same principle extends beyond sports into everyday life. In problem-solving scenarios, left-handed individuals may approach challenges differently, not because they're trying to be unconventional, but because their brains are wired to process information in slightly unique ways. Studies have suggested that left-handed people are more likely to excel in tasks requiring creativity, visualization, and abstract thinking. They may see connections others miss, imagine possibilities that aren't immediately obvious, and navigate complex ideas with a fluidity that feels intuitive rather than forced. However, this advantage comes with its own challenges. Living in a world designed for right-handed individuals requires constant adaptation, from using tools and technology to performing simple daily tasks. Yet this very need to adapt may further strengthen cognitive flexibility, reinforcing the idea that left-handedness is not just a passive trait, but an active training ground for the brain. Over time, this continuous adjustment builds resilience, problem-solving skills, and a heightened awareness of one's surroundings, turning what might seem like a disadvantage into a powerful and enduring strength. Beyond physical and cognitive advantages, the superpower of left-handedness may also lie in its connection to creativity and innovation. Throughout history, a disproportionate number of artists, writers, musicians, and thinkers have been left-handed, suggesting a link between this trait and the ability to imagine, create, and transform ideas into reality. While not every left-handed individual becomes a creative genius, there's a noticeable trend that points to a deeper neurological connection. The brain structure in left-handed individuals often allows for more fluid interaction between analytical and creative processes, enabling them to blend logic with imagination in unique ways. This can result in groundbreaking ideas, unconventional solutions, and artistic expressions that stand out precisely because they don't follow established patterns. In a world that often rewards conformity, the ability to think differently becomes a rare and valuable asset. Left-handed individuals may find themselves naturally questioning norms, exploring alternatives, and pushing boundaries, not as an act of rebellion, but as a reflection of how their minds operate. This tendency can lead innovation across various fields, from science and technology to art and storytelling. However, it's important to recognize that this superpower is not about being better than others, but about being different in a way that adds diversity to human thought and experience. The presence of left-handed individuals ensures that the collective human perspective is not limited to a single way of thinking. Instead, it remains dynamic, adaptable, and open to change. In this sense, left-handedness contributes to the evolution of ideas, driving progress by challenging assumptions and introducing new ways of understanding the world. Ultimately, the enduring presence of left-handed humans serves as a reminder that evolution does not always favor the majority. It often preserves a minority for a reason. What began as a subtle variation in early human development has persisted across thousands of years, surviving cultural suppression, environmental challenges, and societal pressures. This persistence suggests that left-handedness holds a quiet but meaningful role in the human story, one that goes beyond simple preference or habit. It represents adaptability, diversity, and the power of being different in a world that often values sameness. The idea of left-handedness as a superpower may not involve extraordinary abilities in the traditional sense, but rather a collection of subtle advantages that, when combined, creates something truly unique, from enhanced creativity and problem-solving skills to the ability to disrupt patterns and think unconventionally. Left-handed individuals embody a form of strength that is both understated and impactful as modern science continues to explore the complexities of the human brain. We may uncover even deeper insights into why this trait has endured and how it continues to shape human potential. For now, one thing is clear. Left-handedness is not a flaw, not a mistake, but carefully preserved variation that adds depth and richness to human experience. In a world that is constantly evolving, It is often those who see things differently who lead the way forward, and left-handed individuals, with their unique perspective and quiet resilience, may have been doing exactly that all along. Imagine freezing at -40 degrees C, no heater, no electricity, yet caveman villages stayed warm. How did they survive? Long before the world knew comfort, before walls were made of brick or fire was controlled with a simple switch, there existed a time when survival itself was an achievement earned daily. Winter, in particular, was not just a season, it was a silent enemy. Snow buried the land. Freezing winds cut through flesh like invisible blades, and food became scarce as animals migrated or died. Yet, against all odds, early humans, often referred to as cavemen, did not just survive these brutal conditions. They adapted in ways so intelligent that their small communities remained surprisingly warm and livable, deep within valleys, near forests, or along rocky hillsides. These groups carefully chose their settlement locations. They avoided open plains where winds howled mercilessly, and instead built their shelters near natural barriers like cliffs or dense trees that blocked icy gusts. Their villages were not random clusters, but thoughtfully arranged spaces where each structure served a purpose. Using animal skins, bones, mud, and wood, they created dome-shaped huts that trapped heat efficiently. The circular shape reduced exposed surface area, minimizing heat loss. Snow itself became an ally. Packed around shelters, it acted as insulation, preventing warmth from escaping. These people understood something fundamental. Survival wasn't about fighting nature. It was about working with it. Fires were central to their existence, but not in the chaotic way we might imagine. Fires were carefully maintained, often burning slowly for long periods, using specific types of wood that produced steady heat rather than quick flames. Smoke holes were designed into their shelters, allowing ventilation without losing too much warmth. Even sleeping arrangements were strategic. Families huddled together, sharing body heat, often on beds made from dry grass and animal fur, which insulated them from the frozen ground. In a world where temperatures could easily kill within hours, these early humans created environments of warmth and life, proving that intelligence and cooperation were their greatest tools. Their villages, though primitive by modern standards, were masterpieces of survival engineering, shaped not by luxury but by necessity and deep observation of the natural world. As winter tightened its grip, the daily routines of these early humans shifted dramatically, becoming highly organized systems focused entirely on survival and warmth. Food storage became a critical priority long before the first snowflake fell. During warmer months, they hunted extensively, not just for immediate consumption but for preservation. Meat was dried, smoked, or frozen naturally in underground pits where the temperature remained consistently low. These storage pits were often lined with stones and covered with hides to protect the food from scavengers and harsh weather. When winter arrived, these reserves ensured that the villagers did not need to venture out frequently into the deadly cold, conserving both energy and body heat. Clothing also played a crucial role in maintaining warmth. Cavemen didn't simply wear animal skins. They engineered them. Fur was worn on the inside to trap heat, while the outer layer was often treated to resist moisture from snow. They used bone needles and sinew threads to stitch garments tightly, ensuring minimal exposure to cold air. Multiple layers were common, and even footwear was carefully designed using thick hides and grass stuffing for insulation. Inside the shelters, warmth was further maintained through clever use of space and materials. Fires were positioned centrally, and stones were often heated and placed around sleeping areas to radiate warmth for extended periods. These heated stones acted like primitive radiators, slowly releasing heat even after the fire died down. Additionally, entrances to shelters were kept small and sometimes covered with thick hides, preventing cold air from rushing in. Some communities even built double-layered walls with insulating materials like moss or dry grass in between. Social behavior also played a key role. People stayed close, shared resources, and worked collectively. Isolation could mean death, but unity meant survival. Storytelling, tool-making, and communal eating all took place within these warm, enclosed spaces.
turning survival into a shared human experience. What might seem like simple living was actually a highly sophisticated system of adaptation, where every action from
Beyond physical structures and materials, the mental resilience and observational intelligence of these early humans played a defining role in their ability to endure winter. They were keen observers of nature, understanding patterns that modern humans often overlook. They studied animal behavior closely, where animals sheltered, how they conserved energy, and even how they built nests or burrows. In many cases, cavemen mimicked these natural survival strategies. For example, they noticed how certain animals used layers of materials to trap heat and applied similar techniques in their own shelters. They also learned to identify which types would burn longer and produce more heat, and which ones created excessive smoke. This knowledge allowed them to maintain efficient fires that provided warmth without suffocating the occupants. Timing was another critical factor. Activities were planned around daylight, conserving energy during the coldest parts of the day and night. Hunting trips were short and strategic, often targeting animals weakened by winter conditions. Moreover, they understood the importance of minimizing exposure. Instead of roaming unnecessarily, they stayed close to their settlements, preserving body heat and reducing risk. Communication and teaching were vital in passing down this knowledge. Elders played a crucial role, sharing experiences and survival techniques with younger members of the group. This transfer of knowledge ensured that each generation became better equipped to handle harsh winters. Emotional strength was equally important. The darkness and isolation of winter could easily break morale, but communal bonds kept spirits alive. Singing, storytelling, and rituals created a sense of hope and continuity, reinforcing the will to survive. Even the design of their living spaces reflected this understanding of human psychology. Interiors were often arranged to keep everyone within sight of one another, reducing feelings of isolation. Firelight, flickering against the walls, provided not just warmth but comfort and security. In essence, survival was not just physical, it was deeply mental and emotional. These early humans thrived because they adapted holistically, combining environmental awareness, practical innovation, and strong social connections to create a system where warmth was sustained not just by fire, but by knowledge and unity. The geography of their settlements further amplified their ability to withstand winter's brutality. Cavemen did not randomly occupy caves or build shelters. They selected locations with remarkable strategic insight. South-facing slopes, for instance, were highly valued because they received more sunlight during the day, naturally warming the area. Caves that extended deep into rock formations provided stable internal temperatures, shielding inhabitants from extreme cold. And when, in regions without natural caves, they constructed semi-subterranean dwellings, partially dug into the ground, which utilized the Earth's natural elation. These structures maintained a more constant temperature compared to surface-level huts. Water sources were also a crucial factor. Settlements were often located near rivers or streams that did not freeze completely, ensuring access to water even in harsh conditions. However, they were careful not to build too close, as flooding or ice breakage could pose risks. Wind direction was another consideration. Entrances were typically positioned away from prevailing winds, reducing the amount of cold air entering the shelter. Over time, these choices created microclimates where conditions were significantly more manageable than the surrounding environment. Additionally, communal layouts played a role in heat retention. Shelters were often built close together, forming clusters that reduced wind exposure and shared warmth. In some cases, pathways between huts were intentionally narrow, limiting the flow of cold air. Waste management was also handled thoughtfully, with designated areas away from living spaces to maintain hygiene and prevent contamination of food and water. Even the use of fire extended beyond individual shelters. In larger groups, central communal fires were maintained, around which people gathered for warmth and activities. These fires not only provided heat, but also served as a focal point for the community, reinforcing social bonds. The integration of environmental knowledge with practical construction techniques created living spaces that were not just shelters, but carefully engineered systems designed to combat the cold. Every aspect of their village, from location to layout, was optimized for survival, demonstrating a level of ingenuity that continues to impress modern researchers and historians alike. In the end, the warmth of caveman villages during winter was not a mystery or miracle. It was a result of countless generations of learning, adapting, and refining survival strategies. These early humans were not primitive in the way they are often portrayed. They were innovators, engineers, and keen observers of the natural world. Their ability to stay warm in freezing conditions was rooted in a deep understanding of their environment and a commitment to community. They used every resource available to them, from animal skins and bones to stones and snow, transforming harsh conditions into manageable challenges. Fire, clothing, shelter, and social cooperation all worked together as parts of a larger system. No single element guaranteed survival, but the combination of all these factors created a resilient way of life. Perhaps most importantly, they understood the value of unity. In a world where isolation meant death, they thrived through cooperation, sharing warmth, food, and knowledge. Their villages were not just physical spaces. They were living systems built on trust, communication, and collective effort. Even in the face of relentless cold, they found ways to create comfort and security. Their story is a powerful reminder that human survival has always depended on adaptability and connection. Today, with all our modern technology, it's easy to overlook the brilliance of these early solutions. But when we look closely, we see that cavemen were not merely surviving. They were mastering their environment in ways that laid the foundation for human progress. Their warm villages, standing strong against icy winds and endless snow, are a testament to the enduring strength of human ingenuity and the unbreakable spirit of community. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing videos.
But our hearts burn brighter than this fire.